right, good morning everybody and welcome back to True Crime Loser. How you doing today? That sounds awesome. So today we're going to go over and try to make sense of the package of documents that were unsealed late last week regarding the Ghislaine Maxwell case. If you remember, all of these documents stem from a libel lawsuit between Virginia Roberts and Ghislaine Maxwell years ago, where both of them sat down for long, nightmare, intrusive, personal depositions. And when Ghislaine sat down for this long 7-hour deposition where she talks about all these people that were associated with their life and lifestyle, and she went into detail about her own weird sex life, and the whole thing, she was told these will be confidential and never see the light of day and be sealed. Well, late last week, Judge Preska here in New York started the process of unsealing the documents. I'm not really sure what sealing and unsealing of the documents looks like. Is it just opening the folder, or do they actually have a sealing rubber band? I don't know. Anyway, so late last week, the word on the street was, oh my gosh, we're going to get this big trove of documents, which includes what I was most excited about and think is the most interesting part of the whole thing, is the transcript of Ghislaine's 7-hour long intrusive deposition. Well, as all of this was supposed to come out, it was going to be Monday. Her lawyer, Ghislaine's lawyer, put a stop to her section, arguing that it was too intrusive, so Judge Preska delayed that big chunk. So for me, it was a little bit anticlimactic. All of the documents regarding Virginia Roberts' deposition and just a big packet of documents were unsealed, but it wasn't the Ghislaine Maxwell deposition, and as of this morning, her deposition, if it ever does make it out, I think is planned to at least be delayed until September 22nd, and her lawyers and everything are going to argue it. So we didn't get her long 4-hour or 7-hour, 400-page deposition, but there were a bunch of documents unsealed, and the interesting parts of those, in my opinion, were one, there were some emails between Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine, where pretty much Jeffrey is comforting Ghislaine, being like, we're not in trouble, don't worry. He said something like, you didn't do anything wrong, so I urge you to start acting like it. He's like, get out there, hold your head high, go to parties, don't act like you're in trouble. And so seeing that conversation through email between them, you got to think that Jeffrey was the one that always maybe talked her down when she was being scared. Are we going to get in trouble? We're trafficking all these young girls everywhere, and I'm a little bit nervous that we're going to end up in a horror show jail in Brooklyn at the end of all this. And it sounds like Jeffrey was the one to being like, nah, we're okay. We didn't do anything wrong. I urge you to act like you didn't do anything wrong. Get out there, hold your head up, and go to parties. And so that was a little bit interesting, but not too surprising that at some point Jeffrey and Ghislaine had to have some sort of conversation about pretending that they didn't do anything wrong. The second big chunk of the interesting part of the unsealed documents were the part about Alan Dershowitz. And Alan Dershowitz, before I start talking about Alan Dershowitz, everything that I say on my show is allegedly and my own opinion and a joke and just a bit and a gag and all a ruse, and don't sue me, Alan. So there's a big chunk on Alan Dershowitz. He'll be the first one to tell you, none of these are new. These allegations already came out years ago in a lawsuit or something. So I guess as long as the allegations have been brought up before, it brings down their credibility. But anyway, in the documents, Dershowitz allegations a little bit start to sound like a horrible, morbid Dr. Seuss novel. He was accused of raping Virginia on an island and on a plane and in a house and in another house in New Mexico, and the whole 9 yards. And so out of everybody that has been showing up on this type of stuff, Alan is really the only one in the public eye, right? Obviously, Prince Andrew comes up a lot. Well, he's in some dungeon in Buckingham Palace. Clinton came up, which we'll talk about. Clinton always comes up, but he's, God knows where he is. He's surrounded and insulated by spokespeople. And so all he's got to do is have a spokesperson put a statement out being like, no, none of that happened. Thank you. But Dershowitz is out there. He's still working. He's still in the public eye. So he's the one that when this comes out, I think he really feels like, which is understandable, he needs to defend himself. So he did an interview on some internet network that I had never seen before, but that Sean Spicer interviewed him. I didn't know Sean Spicer was a journalist now, and I don't think he'll be one very long because it's one of the most softball, embarrassing interviews I've ever seen. So Sean Spicer is pretty much just worthless and pointless, in my opinion. But Dershowitz did another interview, a 12-minute interview with Tucker Carlson, and it had some funny parts in it. So let's talk about that. So Alan, who has denied no ever having slept with Virginia Roberts, he calls her a lying prostitute. He's a defense attorney, so he is pretty good at just this type of arguing and stuff. But the story that he's going with now contradicts a lot of what he said and just, in my opinion, makes zero sense. So if you remember to the allegations of knowing Epstein and being really close with him in the past, he went to say, I got one massage at his place, but I kept my underwear on. But now, as of a couple days ago, he did an interview with Tucker, and it was a whole change of tone. And so he goes on there, and so he's, saying that she's just a lying prostitute and all this stuff. And, wait, hold on, where do I want to start with this one? And so a few things come up, I think, that just completely contradict everything that he said in the past. In this most recent article, he pretty much pretends like he never even knew Epstein. Like the interview's going nowhere, and at one point Tucker goes, well, at least you knew him well, right? And he goes, no. Dershowitz goes, no, I didn't know him well. We were academic acquaintances. We hung out in some academic situations, and I was his lawyer, but I didn't. And he's like, you stayed at his house, you were at the island. I mean, it just doesn't really add up. And then so a big part of a chunk of the documents that were unsealed were interesting is, so not only is Dershowitz a co-conspirator in this whole thing in the 2005 Florida Jeffrey Epstein case, where he only got 18 months, and everyone was like, wait, what? And then all the co-conspirators were given federal immunity. Well, one of those co-conspirators in the accusations was Alan Dershowitz. So there's a part in the unsealed document saying, talking about how he's accused of rape along with Epstein and all this stuff, and then he's Epstein's lawyer, which then during the case, Epstein's lawyers put a provision in the deal that all of the co-conspirators, including Dershowitz, get immunity. And so, you gotta, that's just a little bit, it seems like a little conflict of interest, right? And so Tucker asked him about that. Like, what about this provision? Don't you think that's a little bit of a coincidence that your name is in there of possibly raping her on an island and in a plane and all over the country? Don't you think it's a little bit suspicious that the deal cooked up by his lawyer is that everybody gets immunity and all this stuff? And Dershowitz's answer to that is, before I say his answer to that, his whole, in all the interviews he does, his big line is, look, it was my job to get him the best deal. A defense attorney's job, he's saying, I'm a good defense attorney, and a good defense attorney's job is to get the person the best deal. He says that over and over again. But what that contradicts to his answer about, hey, what the hell is with this provision that gets everyone, including you, immunity? His answer to that was, I didn't know that provision was even in there. Another lawyer on the team wrote it. I just don't believe that. I just can't believe that. He's this famous lawyer, Harvard lawyer. How would that make any sense? I'm one of the head lawyers on this big case, and I was completely unaware that the other lawyers wrote in a provision that got immunity to all the co-conspirators. How could you miss that? Like on the last day, hey, this provision that gets all of the co-conspirators immunity. When did you guys write that? I must have been at the hotel pool or something. I don't know. Yeah, I had no idea you guys even put that in there. Brain fart. And so that part of the interview is not really, it's like, wait, oh, all right. And then, like I said, it gets to it's like, all right, well, say all of what you just said is true and we believe you. I don't. But let's just say, for the sake of this whole thing, we believe you. At least you were good friends with Epstein, all of this. And he starts denying that too. He's like, no, we didn't even know each other. We hung out in some academic situations. Just, hey, well, it's good to see you at another academic situation. Have you read any hardback books lately? Oh, yes. I looked at a nice algorithm recently. I love these academic situations. It just is insane, Dershowitz, to think that. You were always with this guy. It would have been a better answer for Dershowitz to just be like, personally, I never liked him, but I got to know him pretty well from just being his lawyer for years. And I think that would have been a lot more realistic. And so he's saying, I didn't even know about the provision. I had no idea it was even in there. And I don't believe that. Here's what I picture is when the whole thing was going down and he has all of these allegations. He raped me in a plane and on an island and in a house in New Mexico. And so he knows he has to work harder than he's ever worked on a court case to get the best deal possible. So I picture him like in the middle of the night in his office. The walls are lined with heavy-duty bookcases, and he's sitting in the middle of the room with law books stacked higher than he is with a headlight on, and he's just furiously reading like 5 of the books at once, being like, I gotta get a good deal. I need to get the best deal. The co-conspirators need immunity. I gotta get the best deal. And he's mainlining coffee, and his eyes are crazy, and his hair is nuts, and he's frantically trying to get the best deal to help himself. And then his wife opens the door and goes, Alan, what are you doing? It's in the middle of the night. Come to bed. And he goes, I gotta get the best deal. You don't understand. I need to get the best deal. And she's like, what are you talking about? You always get him a good deal. Just come to bed. I'm sure you'll get him, I'm sure you can finish it tomorrow. And he stands up and he goes, you don't understand. And when he stands up, though, it reveals that he's wearing underwear on top of his pajama pants. And his wife goes, are you wearing underwear over your pants? And his crazy eyes flash in the lamplight, and he goes, I kept my underwear on. And his wife just goes, okay, well, come to bed soon, close the door. But I do not believe that the provision that got all of the co-conspirators out was written unbeknownst to Alan, and he just, I missed that whole thing. I don't know. And so they got him a great deal. As Alan will point out, that's his job, to get him the best deal, and you got to respect that. I just don't believe that he never knew him. We weren't friends. I don't know. I stayed at his house a few times, but I don't know. I never knew him. Academic situations. So there's the Dershowitz part. And like I said, he's doing interviews. She's a lying prostitute. And then we get to old Bill Clinton, who I don't think is a surprise to anyone that he showed up in the unsealed documents. And so Clinton showed up by Virginia saying that one time she was on the island, and in the, I guess, deposition or the testimony or whatever it is, she had asked someone, why is Bill Clinton on the island? And they said, I don't know. And she said that she saw him on the island with, at the same time as two young girls. And I always had just thought that it had come out back when this was in the news more, that at first, through the flight records of the Lolita Express, that had Bill Clinton on the plane 11 times. And then Gawker came out with a pretty good, when they were still around, came out with a pretty good investigation that put him on the plane 26 times, with 5 of those being where he refused Secret Service security, where he kind of ditched his Secret Service to the island. It's kind of a downer if you got a bunch of Secret Service guys standing out in front of your bungalow on Pedophile Island. And so, as Tucker's interviewing him, and the part of how it's a little bit weird that you were accused and then there was a co-conspiratorial immunity deal. So after that part in the interview goes nowhere, and Dershowitz is playing down everything. I don't think anyone went to the island. It was barely an island. Tucker goes, well, there was an ex-U.S. president on the island. That's something. And Dershowitz goes, who? He looks all surprised. Who? And Tucker goes, Bill Clinton. And to my amazement, he strongly denies that too. No, he never. And he's starting to, you can tell, say the reason that he thinks that Bill Clinton was never on Pedophile Island. And it's like, okay, maybe this is something new. Maybe this is a good reason that's going to prove that he wasn't there. So I was like listening. I started to listen in. Okay, here's the reason. What is it? And Dershowitz goes, he's categorically denied being there. That's what you're going with, Alan. You're just going to believe Clinton that he's denying it. And so there you go. I didn't go to the island. Clinton is famous for denying sexual relations and then later being like, whatever. Sorry. And Dershowitz also pointed out that they asked the Secret Service, and the Secret Service said that didn't happen. Well, the Secret Service gets to lie about questions like that, and it really doesn't mean anything. And old Bill, like I said at the beginning of this, had a spokesperson just be like, no, he didn't. Thank you. No idea where Bill is at this time, probably on some secluded property, just hiding. And something real quick that Bennett, our trusty journalist on the inside, sent me. A NewYorkDailyNews.com article came out, so who knows, take it with a grain of salt, but they said that Ghislaine, rumor has it is Ghislaine has the whole second floor of the jail in Brooklyn all to herself, and she gets double the rec time everybody else does by herself. And that before she came in, there's rumors that all the other inmates had to go and scrub down her cell and stuff to get it nice and clean for her. But I'm glad that they're not letting anyone around her. We got to make sure that woman makes it to trial. Hopefully the documents, her side of the deposition, are released, but I'm not going to hold my breath. And also, even if they are released, this trove of documents that was released with the names it did, I think gave a look at how, if the next round of documents are unsealed, how it would go. Even the people that are named, all they get to do is come out and go, I don't know, she's a lying prostitute, I was never there, I was never there either, or at that place. None of them. So that's it. So until there's arrests, I guess you just get to deny through a spokesperson. And to be honest, I never thought Ghislaine was going to be arrested. That was a surprise to me. So I guess it's not out of the possibility that Dershowitz and Clinton would be arrested. Can you imagine how crazy that would be? But I'm going to cut it off there. We are having a tropical storm / little hurricane come through today. So probably going to be a nice windy, rainy day. I was laughing at the thought of, as the hurricane came in, someone with COVID accidentally coughs into it and it becomes Hurricane COVID. And you're like trying to get home and the wind starts blowing your mask. It's like, and then your mask rips off and you're like, no! Then all your clothes rips off and you're standing there naked like, ah! And a bunch of COVID flies into your mouth and eyes and butt and you're just like, no! So that's what I was thinking today. Do I have anything else? I hope you're doing well. Oh yeah, one last thing. So it's going to rain all day tomorrow. And I was on Google trying to figure out what's the deal with these documents. Ghislaine's side of it, her 400-page transcript. It's kind of hard to figure out on Google the delay, what her lawyers are doing to stop them. What are the chances of them coming out? So I just clicked out of Google and I was like, the hell with it. Tomorrow after the storm, I'm just going to go try to ask Ghislaine's lawyer. I'm just going to go down, hang out in front of his office, and hopefully he'll come in or come out. And I'm going to say, hey, Mark, how you doing? I'm got a couple questions about the documents and see if I can get him just an answer from him. Save me a little time on Google. But we'll see. If I don't get swept away in the hurricane, that's the plan. So I will see you guys in a couple days. Have a good start to your week. I love you all. Why? Stiving why. Schmade.